Thanks for tuning in at Brackeys.
Hello everyone and welcome to this video in the How to Make a 2D Platformer course. Today we're going to be making, or at least beginning to make, an upgrade menu for our game so we can upgrade different stats on our player and maybe even on our weapon too. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, whenever we want to upgrade something, we're also going to introduce some kind of currency to the game. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to do. So let's just jump right into it. So you can see I'm here in Unity as I normally am. And the first thing that we kind of want to do is sketch out how we want the update menu to look. Because if we have a look at our player, you can see that we already have this idea of stats, and currently we only have a max health in here. We also have on our platformer 2D or character 2D, we have our max speed, which is something that we could definitely make upgradable. And then of course under our player arm, then pistol, we have this weapon that has stuff like fire rate, and by the way I want to change this to something like 20 and this to let's say 30. And we have both the fire rate and a damage parameter that we could make upgradable here. We could also make it possible for our player to switch weapons. That completely depends on what you want to do. And yeah, that's kind of the base of what we have going on here. I think we should also implement some kind of health regen over time, and maybe we could even make that upgradable too. We could also do something like how much money you gain from enemies. Making that upgradable is also a lot of fun. So there are lots of different opportunities for us to implement here. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to expand the UI overlay game object, and I want to create a new empty here, which is going to host our update menu. There we go. And this is something I think we should be able to bring up from time to time by simply pressing a button. We could also do it so every time we complete a wave, it will take us to the upgrade menu, but I like to kind of make it more dynamic so you don't have to go through the update screen every time. Instead, you just hit, let's say, U to upgrade, and it will pause the game while you're in there. This way, it also serves as a pause menu. If people don't use escape, that's up to them. Good. So we have the update menu here, and under this, I want to go ahead and create a UI image. And this is just going to be a flat image that will serve as our upgrade menu background. So for some reason it isn't snapping. Oh, that's because we need to take our update menu, hold down Alt and click in the bottom right corner here to anchor that to the entire screen. And now we can do the same with this image, hold down Alt and click there. There we go. So now it fills up the entire screen, and we can go ahead and make this some kind of light blue color. I think that could be pretty cool. Something like that would be a fine base to work off. So we're going to rename this to BG, and we can make this completely solid, or we could make it somewhat opaque so it just kind of fits on top of the game. But I am going to go ahead and make this, actually maybe we should just darken the game. No, I'm going to make this completely solid and then make this blue color. I kind of like that. So that's what we're going with. Cool. And then we also want to right click, go under UI, and I want to add just a simple graphics element in here to make it look a bit more interesting. So I want to go under sprites and find our astronaut sprite atlas and drag the astronaut idle in here and hit set native size. And then I want to kind of expand him and drag him over. And we also need to give him an arm. So let's just duplicate him, drag in the arm now, hit set native size. And again, let's expand this a bit, size that up so it looks proportionate with our character here. Something like that looks pretty good, just to have something in here that isn't just text and buttons, kind of to spice up the menu. So this makes it feel like we're actually upgrading our character, which is something nice to feel. We can also, of course, if you want to be able to switch weapons in here or upgrade your weapon, you can have a weapon graphic here and show the updates visually on that weapon, how it changes if you want to go fully all in with this system. That's not something we're going to add now, maybe in the future. So we're going to have an astronaut here, and under him we're going to have his arm there. Good, and again this has no purpose other than being pretty. Then under the update menu, let's go under UI and hit text. And let's change the text here to update. Or no, upgrade. Have I been saying update this entire time? This is not the update menu, this is the upgrade menu. Brain fart. And of course, that shouldn't be capitalized. There we go. All right, so this is the upgrade menu, and then we can go and find our cool font, the little footsteps. I'm going to be using that again. And we can size this up a bunch. So let's make that something like 64. Drag it up there, anchor it to the top. And while we're at it, the astronaut should be anchored to the left-hand side, the center of the left-hand side. And his arm should, yeah, that's fine at the center. And everything else looks good. Awesome, so you can see how that looks, and it should do just fine if we mess around with it. Good, then we can take our text and make that completely white. I think that looks pretty awesome. Then we can take and add on a shadow effect, and let's make this red, solid color, and let's make the shadow go from 3 to -3 there. And you can see that just gives it this cool retro look. I'm going to take the astronaut here and maybe move him out just a tiny bit so he doesn't take up so much space on the screen, and maybe move him down a bit too. So something like that looks pretty good. And the upgrade text, we can drag that up a bit. There we go. And now we can actually fill in some text here. So this is the upgrade title. And we can just use that as a base. So let's duplicate that, and let's call this the health amount maybe. And this is simply going to say that health, and then a colon, and then the current amount of health that we have. I'm just going to set this to 120. And of course we're going to be changing this through script. And then we can set maybe the size to something like 24, maybe a bit bigger, something like 40 actually. And the effect, the shadow effect here, I want to make that black instead, and I want to make it a lot thinner. So something like 2 to -2. That looks great. So just to give it an outline, but it doesn't need to be very clear. Actually, maybe 1 to -1. Yeah, I think that's even better. So we're going to stick with that, but I like the white color, so we're going to stick with that too. So under the upgrade menu, we can now create another empty, and this is simply going to act as a container for all of the different attributes, just like the health amount that we want to display. This way we can very easily add more. We can even add them through code, and it will make sure that they are laid out correctly on the screen. So this will simply act kind of as a group of elements in the UI. So I'm going to drag it out something like this. I'm then going to rename this to attributes. There we go. Then I'm going to take the health amount and drag it under attributes. Then under add component, I'm going to go under layout and then choose vertical layout group. And this is going to make sure that as we add more attribute GUI elements, it's going to stretch them to fit this UI element vertically. So if I add another one here, you can see it makes them stack. And that makes it very easy to add more attributes. For now, I'm going to stick with health amount and a maybe speed amount. And yeah, that looks pretty good. And we can change this here, speed. And then we want it to be, the default speed is 10, I believe. Again, we're going to be changing this through code, so it really doesn't matter. Then we're going to take the health and speed amount and make sure that it's centered on the left here. And now you can see we can move them both by simply scaling the attributes. So we can simply scale that over there. And that already looks very fine. And if we want them closer together, well, we can just scale down the attributes here, or we can play around with some of this functionality. So we can choose the alignment. Upper left is going to be just fine. We can choose whether or not we want them to be expanded on the height and width. And we can also add a component on each of these, which is the layout element that will allow us to control different properties for our width and height for that element. That's not something we're going to be needing here, but it's definitely something that you should pay attention to, because it's actually really cool. So play around with these things. They can make your life a lot easier. So as long as we only have these two, I'm just going to scale them in like this, and that's basically all we're going to have for the attributes for now. So the next thing that we want to add are some buttons that will allow us to upgrade each of these attributes. And for that, I'm simply going to duplicate the attributes here and instead call these upgrade buttons. And again, instead of health and speed amounts, we're going to have some buttons in here. And I want to simply take the buttons from our main menu that we made, our quit and play button, that for some reason is bugged, but if we hit play here, you can see they appear again. These two cool buttons right here, I'm just going to take the play one, copy that, go back into the main level, find our UI overlay, our upgrade menu, go under our upgrade buttons and paste that in there. And you can see it works just fine, but we need to take our upgrade buttons here and move this entire thing. So we're going to move it over. I actually want to scale in the attributes a bit here. Place the upgrade buttons somewhere there. We can just duplicate these so we can see what it looks like if we have two side by side. Scale them in, kind of like that. Then we can take, then we can add some padding, and we can also add some spacing. So I want a spacing of maybe 5. Actually a bit more, maybe 10, and then maybe 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom, something like that. Looks pretty good, but I want to play around with these buttons, but because I'm not entirely satisfied with how they look, so I'm going to take the effect distance here, change that to a 2 and a -2. I think that's actually a lot better already. And I kind of like how that looks. Then we can go and expand this and then change the text to, to upgrade. And the font size, we're going to have to bring that down a bit to maybe 36. Nope, 33. Okay, so I think we are going to go with something like 26 there. That looks pretty good. And instead of making this black, we could also make it some kind of like appealing orange yellowish color. No, that doesn't look too good. We could add an outline on the upgrade, but I think that would add too many colors. I actually like this black, just like this, and then we can rename this to an upgrade button. And we can delete the play button there and then simply duplicate this. But I also want to remove the event trigger here. Remove component. We have the animator and all that, which is fine. And let's just try and duplicate that and hit play and see if it works if we hover over these. And again, the game is playing in the background, so you are going to be hearing shot noises. It's not currently paused or anything. We are not checking if this is open, but you can see just how nice these buttons actually feel. So I really like this animation, and I think we're just going to stick with this. One thing that I might want to do is actually make some kind of image that kind of covers our entire health and our entire upgrade. And that will kind of need us to restructure this a little bit. So I'm kind of making some of this up on the go, which is definitely something that you're going to have to do when designing a UI. It is a creative process. So I excuse if I haven't thought this all the way through, which I have not. So I'm going to take the health amount here and just duplicate this and move it out of the attribute so we can kind of experiment with it up here. And yeah, so this is the health amount, and that's fine. I'm also going to make an empty object. So create empty here. And this is going to be called attribute, and it's going to be storing the amount and a button. So we can take our health amount and drag it onto the attribute, and we can take, whoops, before we do that, I want to take the attribute here and just scale it to the health amount here. It's going to be fine. And then take our health amount under the attribute. There we go. And the health amount, we want this to scale with the attribute. From there, but we don't want it to scale on the other direction. So we only want it to scale there. So we can kind of do this. Yeah, that's very nice. And then down here, we need some kind of button, and that's going to be our upgrade button. So we're going to take that, duplicate it, and again, put it under our attribute and drag it up here. And we can drag the button in there. Actually, instead, let's take our attribute and drag that out a bit. Size that up, take our upgrade button, drag that there and there. And we want this to scale with the side, but not with the x-axis, I believe. So this way, we can do this. Yes, that's perfect. So it actually scales and it moves, but it doesn't scale on the wrong axis. So now that we have this idea of an attribute, we can simply put different attributes under the attributes group here. So we can delete the upgrade buttons, and we can delete our two attributes and simply take our one attribute here and place that under attributes. So you can see how that looks. And we then of course need to make this wider. There we go. And when we now duplicate this attribute, you can see just how smooth that is. And we can then go under our attributes object and add some padding just as we did before. So that's going to be 10, 10, and 10. And there we go. So that makes it a lot easier to add new attributes, and I think it's just more logical overall. So this is going to be our health attribute, and this is going to be our speed attribute. There we go. And you can of course prefabilize this if you want to make it into a prefab. That's completely fine. And this is of course going to be, instead of writing what kind of amount it is, I'm just going to write amount. And this is going to be our speed, and it's going to be defaulted to 10. So I think this is a lot better if you structure it this way, and therefore that's what we are going to do. So we have our attributes, and everything should scale nicely with the screen. This is parented to the center. So you will notice if I go ahead and do this, if we have a very tiny screen, our astronaut will actually overlap with our properties. But again, this will require a very small screen. So I think we will be okay with that. For now at least. You can of course go ahead and change how these things move on different screen sizes. I mean, if we go ahead and choose the smallest possible screen here, you can see it does overlap a little bit. So we can maybe take our astronaut, just move him out here so that he doesn't overlap with the properties. And this way our game is kind of future proof no matter what screen we want to display it on. So that's fine. And yeah, I believe that is all we needed to do with the UI work. Let me just check how long I've been recording here. Yeah, so this is already almost 20 minutes, and therefore I'm going to cut off the recording here, and we're going to continue in the next video by actually scripting some functionality into this. So we're going to actually make our upgrade menu do something. This was just the very beginning of a very cool system, a system that I definitely want your feedback on. So if you have any great ideas on what you want to see in this upgrade menu system, definitely write them in the comment section. You can also visit the Brackeys forum, both with suggestions, or if you want to ask some questions about how you can implement your own ideas if I'm not able to cover them in the tutorial. So that was basically it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one, and I'll see you there.